You all know I love Tampa Bay, but I thought you could use the perspective of somebody else and have him tell you what he likes about Tampa Bay and what he doesn't. Hey everybody, Melanie Atkinson here, realtor with Smith & Associates in beautiful Tampa Bay, Florida. And today I have bribed my boyfriend to do a video with me because I really thought you all would appreciate the perspective of somebody else. Now, I wouldn't put him through the torture of doing this unless I thought he had something important to tell you guys. Todd's lived in a lot of different cities in his adult life. He just moved to the Tampa Bay area a little less than 3 years ago. So you lived in Ohio and Detroit and Chicago and Boston and Charleston. So for any of you guys that are coming from different cities, I thought he would have a perspective that would be helpful for you. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for having me.
He's very excited. First off, I know when you were moving here with your job, you could choose any city to live in Florida, but you chose Tampa over all of the other cities in Florida. Why did you choose Tampa?
You know, I wanted to be close to the water. I wanted to be close to an airport that isn't huge, but it's easy to get in and out of. The water on the Gulf Coast, to me, looks better than the water on the Atlantic Coast. Orlando, somewhat landlocked, and the Lightning. I'm a big hockey fan.
Okay. Me too, so that works. You've lived in some very big cities. How does Tampa compare to those big cities as far as things to do and things like that?
There's plenty of stuff to do. The biggest change and the thing that I was really looking for was being able to do stuff outside year round.
So that's one of the things that we talk about a lot with buyers that are coming from other cities is that Florida is year-round living. Even though the summers get hot, you can still be outside. Now, you love hot weather. In fact, the extremely hot weather that I don't understand how you love it. Florida fit you for that reason. How did you get used to the hot weather?
Didn't take any time at all. Remembering the times of shoveling out my car or scraping off my windshield or scalding hot showers on really dry skin.
Right.
No, I really enjoy heat and humidity. There might be a handful of days in July or August where you walk outside and it's kind of a smack to the face, but I will never complain after shoveling and scraping.
Let's talk traffic. It's a question that I get a lot from people that are coming from other cities. I know in a lot of cities that you've lived in, there's a lot of public transportation, so you're not necessarily dealing with traffic. We don't have that public transportation system here in the Tampa Bay area. Is the traffic as bad as people say in comparison to some of those bigger cities?
You know, I think it's on par based on population. I think the biggest thing, if you were to move here from another city, would be determining what your commute's going to be, you know, where you're going to work and where you want to live. There's a couple different bottlenecks that could really create a difficult commute. I am kind of lucky in being able to create my schedule so I can avoid those. So it's not troublesome for me per se, but yeah, you know, if you had a 15-20 mile drive and you had to go down a couple different ways, it can be troublesome.
Yes, the city is working on more. We're trying to get more bike lanes. We're trying to, you know, improve the trolley system and the bus system and things like that. It's definitely a work in progress, but we are not a subway city. We don't have mass public transit. So it is really a car city. You do need to have a car. You do spend a lot of money on tolls and gas and things like that. So keep that in mind whenever you're moving from other cities. So one of the reasons a lot of people move to Florida, Tampa specifically, is for cost of living. You don't have the state income tax and things like that. What have you noticed? And I know you lived in those other cities whenever you were a lot younger and your situation was different, but what have you figured out about the cost of living here?
You know, I think there's a wider variety down here as far as, you know, if you have the money, you can live in really great places. If you're a little bit short, you can live in nice places too, just a little bit further outside the city. Car insurance here is pretty expensive. It definitely came up from South Carolina, but it had gone down from Massachusetts and it was up from Illinois. You know, it's really relative to the lifestyle that you want, how close to the water you want to be, whether you're going to live in a condo or whether you want to have a house or whether you want to have property. Definitely nice to save money on income tax, but there are some other costs that kind of put it on par with a lot of other places.
So you're in the process actually of buying your second home here in the Tampa Bay area. He moves a lot. Do you feel like you get a lot of house for your money here?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the location, proximity to the city, and proximity to the water. You get more as you move further out.
The cities like Wesley Chapel, Land O'Lakes, Odessa, places like that, you can get a lot more house for your money. Whereas in South Tampa, the land is so expensive that once you put a house on it, it's very expensive. And so people will see median and average prices and they think that that's across the board. It's not. It really depends on location. For instance, one of the house that he's buying now, he's moving farther away from the city and he's getting so much more house than what he currently has as far as square footage and the construction and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the newer construction projects and properties, they're all, further outside of the city, but you're going to get more per square foot.
Absolutely. You have a longer drive and a longer commute, which we already talked about. Traffic can be a pain, so, pros and cons.
Yeah, it's really important to know, where you're going to work, if you're going to work from home, and then that'll determine where you want to live for sure.
For anyone moving here, that's the adult ages. It gets so hard to meet people once you're out of those, your 20s when you're hanging out with bars and doing, bigger group activities. How was it for you when you moved to a new city to try to meet people here in Tampa?
I wouldn't say it was overly difficult. I do play some recreational sports, so you meet a lot of friends that way. The other thing is, it seems like most of the people that live in the area are from somewhere else.
Right.
So they're a little bit more open to meeting new people. It's not like, the good old boy network or neighborhood where everybody's from here and knows everybody, which that's something I experienced up in Northeast for sure.
So we talked a little bit about activities, and I know he plays ice hockey, but you also like to do other things. You paddleboard, you run, you play golf. Talk a little bit about the accessibility of doing all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, living in Tampa, everything's within an hour at
Right.
the max. Surprisingly, we even have some really good mountain biking trails that are about 40 minutes from the city.
No mountains, but
Trails.
trails.
Plenty of golf if you're willing to drive, 20, 30 minutes. Trails for biking, running, paddleboarding around the islands or in the bay. There's plenty of stuff to do. That's why I'm here. I like doing that stuff all year. I don't like being cooped up for 8 months.
So you touched a little bit about golf courses, and that's one thing that I think people are kind of surprised about whenever they get to Tampa, because there's other cities in Florida that are filled with golf courses. Tampa itself is more of a city, and close to the city, there's not a ton of golf courses. Now there's golf courses, but the best ones are where?
Not in Tampa. So yeah, you have to drive, 45 minutes to get to the good public courses. There's always, country club courses, but yeah, you've got to go north 45 miles, you got to go east 45 miles, or you got to go south, 50, 60 miles.
So we've talked a lot about the things that you like about Tampa. Now, I drive with you a lot. So I know one of the things you don't really like about Tampa and Florida in general are the bad drivers, which is something I talk about in some of my other videos. Explain what it's like to be a driver in the state of Florida.
Have you ever played Frogger? Florida is definitely unique. I think there's bad drivers everywhere. So people who are familiar with different rules, regulations, and then there's normal people driving around just trying to get to work, trying to avoid all those people. Yeah, it's tough.
Yes, it is. And I do talk about that for a reason. So the other negative thing that people often think is negative is our weather and the storm threats and things like that. So since you've been here, has that been something that you think about very often?
No, not really. The first year I was here, there was a hurricane.
There was Irma.
Yeah.
17, yeah.
Kind of lucked out, had a reason to get out of town. Didn't have any damage or anything to my place. And then,
No, it didn't really hit Tampa.
I don't know, it seems like it's more prevalent on the national news than it is in reality here.
Thank you. Another thing that I get asked about, a negative thing, are creepy crawlies and bugs and things like that. Do you find that to be overly annoying?
No. I lived in South Carolina for several years. There was a lot more gators there, I think, than here, especially on the golf courses. And palmetto bugs, I definitely saw a lot more of those there than I see here. I guess it's relative to where you go. I wouldn't go wading in the Everglades, but I don't see a lot of bugs. The only thing is love bugs.
Yes.
We got 2 different stretches of the year where there's about 3 weeks of those darn things just smacking into your car, which
we just
sucks.
finished love bug season. I mean, I think we washed our cars every day.
Yeah, you have to,
You have
unfortunately.
to,
If you
yeah.
don't, it kind of ruins your car.
So the other thing that people often think about Florida is that we have crazier people here in Florida. The Florida man stories and everything like that. Do you find the people here to be any crazier than in other states?
No, in general, I think there's a lot of crazy people, but I don't think they're specifically in Florida. I think it's just one of those things that kind of snowballed. It's unfortunate that I was born in Ohio too, because I think there's a couple websites that talk about Ohio and Florida.
Yes, I was born in Ohio too, so
So maybe it's just my bar is low for craziness. I don't know.
maybe so.
I do date you.
He's totally kidding. I'm the most normal person ever. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about food. Certain cities are known for certain types of food. In Tampa, the only one that I can really think of is the Cuban sandwich, which are delicious. How do you find the comparison of like pizza in Tampa versus Chicago?
I feel like we sort of have everything here because we have so many people who've come from other parts of the country. So if you want really good pizza, you can get it. If you want really good Greek food, you can get it.
Yes, really good Greek food here, Tarpon Springs, yeah. When talking about restaurants, it very much is a melting pot here in Tampa. There's good restaurants of all sorts of different nationalities and things like that. And our Cuban sandwiches, especially at the Columbia Stone Soup Company in Ybor City, has great Cuban sandwich too. You really can find just about everything here. So as far as things to do in Tampa entertainment-wise, you've lived in big cities before with lots of sports and concerts and things like that. How does Tampa compare?
Very well. We have Major League Baseball, we got NFL football, XFL football, if we still have that, NHL hockey. If you want to see a basketball game, you can just drive to Orlando. It's about an hour. Casinos like 10 minutes from the city. There's really no shortage of things to do. That's for sure.
Amalie Arena is a big place for concerts. The amphitheater over by the casino is a great place, another great place for concerts. We also have a lot of small concert venues between St. Pete and Tampa and things like that. Well, that's it, Todd. I'll put you out of your misery now. I just really hope that you guys find it interesting to have somebody else's perspective on the city. I've lived here for 20 years, so I don't really know what it's like to live in other cities. So thank you guys for watching. If you're looking for something else to watch on my channel, check out my Why Tampa video to learn all about the Tampa Bay area. Thanks so much. With love, Melanie.